How do you perceive the church? When I say church, what comes to your mind? Or even better yet, if I was walking through the state fair and I just asked, Joe Blow, what comes to your mind when I say church? What are some answers do you think we would get? I've accumulated a couple here that I think you might get. So one, well, the church is an advocacy group. Every couple years when there's a new pope elected, you see that there's the newscasters talking, well, if Cardinal so-and-so is elected pope, he'll advocate for this stuff. But if Cardinal so-and-so is elected, so they advocate. You also might get the answer, there's something really beautiful and historical about the church. A lot of what we do today comes from that. It's a beautiful piece of our history. And I remember even being in Rome, or even at the cathedral in St. Paul, you have people taking pictures, that go in there. And I've asked them before, I'm like, what faith do you practice? And they're like, well, I don't practice a faith. I'm just here. They're there like, it's a beautiful museum. This is a piece of artwork from the past. So you might get that answer. You might get the answer that, well, the church is like an NGO, a non-governmental organization. The church does nice things for other people. Schools, hospitals, these other things, charitable organizations. Church does that. You also might get the answer, and this might have what come to your head today. I don't think that was grammatically correct, but we're going to leave that there. What is the church? You're like, I'm sitting in it. The building. And then finally, and this is the one I really want to hone in on. I think if we went to the state fair and asked people, particularly that aren't practicing, what comes to your mind when I say church? I think you would get the response, well, it's an ideology. It is a list of rules that you follow, ideas that you adhere to, and that's your choice. You have your decision. That's how you choose to live your life. That's your truth. So you can do that with your life. But the church is an idea that you adhere to, and there are many ideas in the world. Well, what I want to say is that none of those things that I just listed are actually wrong. In some ways, each of those things are true. I mean, the church is a charitable organization. We do charitable things. The church is a building. We're sitting in it. The church has rules. All these things are things that, yes, the church is. But if that is our only view of what we're doing here, what makes this different than anything else that you do in your week? What makes us different than a charitable organization? What makes the church different, the cathedral different than a piece of artifact at Fort Snelling or something? And again, not to say those things aren't important. There is an element of that. But what I'm saying is if that's our whole view of what we're doing, if it's just a set of rules, we're kind of missing the point. Maybe you've heard me say before that the way we look at heaven and the next life is not like Tom and Jerry, meaning it's not just a set of rules that we need to follow or not follow, and that decides what happens. There are certainly rules and things that we do, but here is the point. All of that stuff that we just listed, advocacy and the non-governmental organization and yada, 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 calm down, Father Ryan. All of that stuff is pointing us towards relationship. We said that the point of being on earth is to learn to love on earth the way they love in heaven, to fall in love with God. A relationship of love. The rules and the charity and the building and the history, all of that stuff, they're like traffic cones guiding us towards the point, Him. Falling in love with Him who makes heaven heavenly, as you've heard me say. So the church must be seen in the context of relationship for any of these other things to make sense. If any of these other things make sense, it has to be that way. And that's what we hear in the readings today. In the first reading, he talks about the commandments and the laws. And then in the gospel, we hear Jesus say, he says very clearly, you disregard God's commandments and you cling to human tradition. What is he saying there? He's saying you're looking at this the wrong way. I gave you the rules. The rules aren't bad. All these other things that you're doing are good, actually. But if that's where it ends, if that's where our vision stops, what a limited way to see it. It's no different than any other ideology. That's just what this is, a set of beliefs or a set of rules that we do. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of like, if we live in this place of like rule only, it's like we have a punch card, and we have to punch off certain things, and then if we have all the things punch off, we get like a get out of hell free card, which I wouldn't mind, by the way, if you know who sells them. But anyway, what I'm saying there is like, yes, kind of. Those rules are meant to guide us towards relationship. It's not just checking boxes. That is such a shallow way to see it. And I fall into that myself, seeing what we're doing here. So it's very helpful to be reminded. I want to give you this quote. It hangs in my office. It's by Pedro Arrupe. I read it daily when I remember to. Nothing is more practical than finding God. That is, than falling in love in a quite absolute, final way. What you are in love with, what seizes your imagination, will affect everything. It will decide what will get you out of bed in the mornings, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything. All this other stuff that we're doing, beautiful stuff, God-given stuff, not bad, very good, is geared towards that. When we fall in love, it changes everything. Let me just break it down for you on the human level, way of relationship, and then we'll bring it back to the divine. So think about the context and people. You can think about like a 15, 16-year-old boy. I was that a couple years ago, and he likes Mountain Dew, Doritos, stays up till 3 a.m. playing video games, this kind of thing. He likes his life. It's good. But then all of a sudden, a couple years go by, he meets Susie Q. Oh boy. He meets Susie Q. And very gradually, the way that he is living his life starts to change. I'm no longer staying up till 3 a.m. I got to get up early and take my girlfriend to church. See what I did there? I can't eat Doritos. I've got a date tonight. We're having steak. I got to go meet her family. I actually have to bathe today. Do you see what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden his life starts to change because he's falling in love. And then we even move 10 years down the road and we go back to this quote. He has a family and a wife. He falls in love. All of a sudden, what gets him out of bed in the morning? Dad, I need breakfast. What is he doing with his evenings? Well, the kids have soccer. My wife sings in the choir. I need to go and support her. My weekends? Soccer tournament, being with the kids, taking them to church. What do I read? Who do I know? All of a sudden, my friends become wrapped up in what I love. What breaks my heart? Her family's like my family. And when something bad happens to the in-laws, I also feel that. What I'm saying here is when you fall in love, what you are in love with changes everything. It changes everything about your life, just like this guy, and the faith is no different. The faith is no different. Now, are there rules in a relationship, in a marriage, in a relationship of friends, parent-child? Yes. And if I listed them out for you, you'd probably laugh. Like, why do you even have to say that? For example, thou shalt not forget your wife's birthday. Great. That is certainly a very good traffic cone guiding you on the right path. That's teaching you how to love. And so what Jesus is saying in the gospel today is these things, these rules are actually meant to help us, help facilitate relationship. It's kind of to guide us, gear us towards love. How do we relate in the most profound way? That's what's going on. But if we just see the marriage or the friendship or the relationship as just a set of rules, how burdensome would it be? Oh, gosh, I got to make my wife breakfast again? oh, I need to get her a card for her birthday. Check the box. Hopefully it, gets me out of, being yelled at or whatever. Getting yelled out of free, never mind. You know what I mean. What I'm saying here, my brothers and sisters, the whole point of this life is to fall in love. You've heard me say that. The rules, the building, the beliefs, the ideology, yes. All of that. Thumbs up. But the point of that is to guide us to love of God. That is the entire point of what we're doing here. That's what makes this different than anything else we do in our week. The most important thing we do. And so I have two things I just want you to consider. One, how do you view the church? And this is a question for all of us. It might fluctuate throughout the day. It's a good thing to reflect on. Do I see it more in terms of rules? Punching the card, doing the different things, following the rules? Or do I see it more as a relationship of love? And then number two, what can you practically do to continue to fall in love with God? And I have one suggestion for you in that regard. I went to school for 8 years. This is what I have to show for it. Are you ready? In order to be in relationship, you have to relate. You see that? Wow. 8 years of school right there. No, you have to relate. Again, going back to the family relationship, if the husband and wife or the parent and child or the friends, if they're only talking for 55 minutes once a week, and even then, they're like, you know what I'm saying? There's going to be an issue there. Now, I get it. It's not easy. And God isn't asking everyone to be a monk. He's not asking me to be a monk. Maybe he is you, but I don't think he's asking me that. He typically works in first downs, not touchdowns. So this week, let's spend time with him daily. In order to grow in relationship, to grow in love, we have to relate. And that doesn't even necessarily mean talking. It can. It doesn't necessarily mean listening. It can. You should listen. But even just being present, turning off your phone for 15 minutes and saying, Lord, I'm just going to let you love me today. I'm going to sit here for 15 minutes and let you love me. I'm the clay, you're the potter. Have at me. Love me. Let's grow deeper in love today. Being intentional about the most important thing in our life. So my challenge for you, between Mass today and Mass next Sunday, let's take time daily, 15 minutes, and let's be with God and let him love us. Call me out on it next week. Because when we fall in love and we stay in love, it changes everything.